He is miracle food. It's the best for detoxing, cleansing, healing, removing inflammation, and boosting your immune system. It's suitable for all ages, and it helped me out tremendously during pregnancy. Allergen-free, gluten-free, 100% organic, all-natural, and vegan. Talkfordoctor.org, 818-429-1675.
Why haven't y'all tried miracle food yet? Like, for real, all jokes aside.
27 times since it's written, and slavery wasn't abolished till 1865. So obviously there's some writing in there that isn't favorable for us. But those type of conversations don't get to the debate floor. Those kind of conversations don't get to the real places that they can do some damage and do some justice. And I think that's what bothers me the most when I see all this politics and stuff like that, is whether you vote for one side or the other, there's no real tangible information being given, whether you don't know it or not, or whether you don't care to know it. But it's just, I don't know, man. You do for self, please do for self. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, definitely. You got to do your due diligence, you know. This is definitely a period of time where you got to do for self, you know, definitely.
Yeah, man. Let's get off of that, man, and talk about something more lighter, man, the music, man. I was reading some stuff about you where your mother knew early on that music was in your blood and it was going to be something you were special in, man. So talk about the first time you really knew that singing and music and just the business itself was something for you.
I mean, I was young when I had the desire, you know, but I really didn't start pursuing, you know, my career and you know, I really fell in love with like the idea of songwriting and, you know, harmonies and melodies and the interest in being an artist probably in the early 90s, you know, once I graduated from high school, just trying to figure out what I wanted to do with my life. You know, I went to college for a few semesters and dropped out and really pursued, you know, the music thing and like really connected the dots, was in a few groups and, you know, hit a lot of open mics. Had a lot of, just lost y'all for a minute. Hit a lot of open mics, hit a lot of cities and whatnot, and you know, things really open up for me. You know, once I met Jazzy Jeff, do a real dope producer, Kev Brown at the time, and you know, Jeff was great because it was a mentor. You know, he was a mentor. I had an opportunity to kind of like really be under his wing and just see how things moved. You know, meet a lot of dope producers. You know, until I went. It was when I went to Philly and started working. You know, up there at a Touch of Jazz and songwriting, working with different artists and writing for different people, that I realized, okay, there's a multitude of artists that are out here that are dope, just like me. You know, like they're just like me. You know what I mean? It was kind of like X-Men for you know, art, for artistry, from the producers, the songwriters, the rappers, the singers, the whole nine. So you know, that experience definitely opened me up. You know, but I always ran to it. You know, I always figured it out. You know. Through a lot of trial and error. You know, I've been my own guinea pig for a lot of what you see, you know, even now to this day.
Definitely. Now, you call yourself the Love King. The question I want to ask you is, do you think that love is dead now in R&B and hip hop? You don't really kind of hear those same songs as much as you used to. Do you think it's dead in music, love?
Nah, not at all. I think if you shallow and you listen to just kind of like one lane of music, you know, one frequency, then it might appear that way, you know. But it's not the case. It's actually a lot of great music out here. It's a lot of great artists, independent artists. You know, I think we're in the free world of artistry right now. It's you know, it's the wild, wild west right now. It's what you make it. You know, it's really what you make it. You can invest in yourself, you know, with the right team around you, with the right drive, with the right message, you know, and people will find and gravitate to your art if that's what they're looking for, you know. So, you know, it's a time more than ever that you can be authentic in your craft. you know. But it's also a time more than ever that that I feel like there's a lot of artists out there that feel like they can't be, and they feel like they gotta follow and do exactly what somebody else is doing. So it's a
Yeah.
lot of authentic. I think it's a lot of authenticity out there, but I think it's also a lot of carbon copy. Um, it's like culture carbon copy. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
why you think that type of music was like removed though, like from the mainstream, was not promoted? You can find those artists, but it's not promoted like it was back in the day, like it's true, authentic R&B. Why do you think that was not being promoted in mainstream anymore, and everybody's just found this one mode of music?
I think because like everything else, man, it became about the bag. You know what
Mhm.
I'm saying? It became about corporate. It became about the bag. It became less about feelings. It became less about emotions. It became less about the spirit and chakras. You know what I'm saying? It's more about just like the bag, and it's like it's really about how you measure it, though. You know, life is about how you measure it and success that um, envision for yourself. And in order to have some things you never had, you got to do some things you never done. So you got to really ask yourself, like, you know, what and that right is bigger than music. You know what I mean? So when I get in the booth, when I make these records, when I make these songs, like, it's to move the soul and the spirit. You know what I'm saying? It's to connect with people. It's to connect with the world. So for me, it supersedes all of that. And I think that the artists that continue to do that, and the artists that we see doing that, they'll continue to stick out, and bright like a beam of light. You know what I mean?
Or talk about the time with the music now compared to music, let's say 10, 15, 20 years ago, when you had A&Rs very influential, excuse me, in the artist and what they were doing, artist development. And now you have a day and age where artists can drop music whenever they want. Somebody that's not signed obviously can drop music however they want, do whatever they want. Talk about those times, the differences, and do you think A&Rs were important or are still important?
I think A&Rs are important. They're still important. Be important to the end of time. There's a thin line with being an A&R. I just got speaking of which, I'm ahead of A&R at a label right now, SRGILS,
Or
which distributes my music. We got Brian McKnight over there, Avant, Vivian Green, a lot of dope artists. You know what I
R&B
mean?
dedicators, yeah.
Yeah, Johnny Gill, Ralph Trashvan is over there
Okay.
right now. So I'm surrounded by, like, R&B greatness. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
But it's a thin line, being an A&R, where, from my experience, back in the day, being on Jive Records for 5 years and going going to every other label trying to get signed, back then, the early 2000s, late 90s, um, you had a lot of A&Rs that they kind of lived vicariously through the artists. Like, a lot of A&Rs, if you did your research on them, a lot of them were like, at one time or another were artists
Hmm.
or musicians. You know what I mean? And some of them, not all of them, some of them, they didn't have the balls or had what it took to be. Either they didn't have the talent, or or the patience, faith, whatever, to like fall through. You know what I mean? And follow through with the process. So then they became like these critics, or these people that then would tell every people, oh, you need to do what they need to do with that music, and who they should be, and how they should look, and how they should dress, and you know what I mean. So for the artists, it's cool to have it. Now, for the artist, from an artist standpoint, um, you should always be in a space where you can humble yourself
Hmm.
to be able to take to be able to take constructive criticism on your art. Even for me, and I think it builds character, it builds greatness. Um, you should be able to step outside of yourself and be humble, and be, because somebody might be telling you something that is good, that can help, with your craft or your project or whatever that vision board is that you're trying to, of excellence that you're trying to get to. Um, so there's a humility that artists have to have. and understanding that there's no I in the word team, but also you also have to trust that gut. You know what I'm saying? That gut and that inner voice. And sometimes you have to take a stance for your art. You have to be willing to do that. It may require you drawing that line in the sand. You might have to go to the war room, and when y'all come out of that war room, it might have to be that it's been decided that, all right, you know what, we're going to agree to disagree on this. But if you put your hands in your career, your life, in the hands of a company that you're doing business with, um, I feel like, whether even if y'all agree to disagree, that when y'all leave that room, um, that company and the powers that be should be willing to stand on whatever tables they got to do,
Mhm.
and scream from the loudest bullhorn, that like, yo, this artist is the shit. Like, you gotta, you know what I'm saying? Like, you have to. They have our full support, and vice versa. So, um, I think that there is definitely a need for it now. I mean, the game is also oversaturated though too, because I
Yeah.
think you got a lot of artists that feel like they're artists, or they can just be artists just because you know how to go in and record, and it's a lot of other elements to it. And I think that quickly people see that it's because you got to be the full package. You got to be able to do an interview. You got to be able to deliver a record, whether you write it, whether it's your record you did yourself or somebody else, produced the record. You got to be able to deliver it not only in the studio, but when it comes to a level, pedigree of performing and being on stage, and or the virtual concert, and you know, um, so it's a lot of elements to it that go into to being an artist. I think that it's dope to see a lot of the new millennial artists who do a lot. They produce the record, they write the record, they record the record, they mix and master, engineer it. Some of them are shooting their own videos. Like,
Mhm.
it's amazing, what you can do, for yourself, and I think that is a beauty in that as well.